One of the conversations that I've really been seeing popping up over the past few days, especially since the Canadiens made their draft pick in the first round, taking David Reinbacher 5th overall, was this discourse surrounding their top pick last year. First overall, Juraj Slafkovsky. Now, we've made a ton of videos talking about Slaf, his first year in the NHL, how he did, the injury, expectations, etc., but what I really wanted to ask in this video was a very simple question that I think a lot of Canadiens fans might have a simple answer to, but I just thought I would ask, because why not? Are we worried about Juraj Slafkovsky? Because ever since David Reinbacher was picked up by the Montreal Canadiens, it's no secret that there were a lot of fans that were upset with the pick. You had David Reinbacher himself having some terrible comparisons made to him, not to hockey players, but to other Austrian people throughout history. It's been very, very inappropriate. And when it comes to the way the Montreal Canadiens draft, you saw a lot of Habs fans immediately react and just kind of use this Reinbacher pick as an opportunity to dunk on all the other prior picks the Canadiens have made too. Not just Kent Hughes and co., but even going back to even the Alex Galchenyuk days. I wanted to show off a tweet. This was made by Michael, Caulfield Habs 2. Now, there were a ton of tweets that were like this one, that were more popular, they had more likes, they had more views, but this one does not have any swear words in it, so I'm going to use this one to make my point. The Montreal Canadiens went to combine 53, 94, and 17 just to end up with Juraj Slafkovsky and David Reinbacher. Just think about it for a second. The last 4 top 5 picks we've had have been Galchenyuk, Kotkaniemi, Slafkovsky, and Reinbacher. Why are we so allergic to talent? We would have passed on Bedard at 1 if we had the chance, man. These dudes are unqualified clowns who don't deserve to touch a manager job for the rest of their lives. And again, we'll talk more about Reinbacher and the draft pick, whom the Canadiens left on the board and whom else they could have drafted, but when it comes to this idea of the Montreal Canadiens taking Reinbacher and adding him to their list of top 5 picks, it's really started to illuminate the uncertainties that many Habs fans seem to have about Slafkovsky. Even in the replies of this tweet, "I'm pissed, but to be fair, Galchenyuk was ultra-talented." Michael replies saying none of these guys panned out. The fact that Galchenyuk was probably the most reasonable pick is insane. And you had a lot of other Canadiens fans saying things like, wait a minute, we passed on Shane Wright for Juraj Slafkovsky, we passed on Michkov for Reinbacher, what's going on here? Why do the Canadiens not like drafting good players? And because of this discourse, I wanted to make this video. Because I recognize that there are still a lot of Canadiens fans that are kind of like me in the same boat. Hey, Slafkovsky is 19 years old, he's going to get better, and he's still very young. So why are we fretting about this in 2023 when the guy just wrapped up a rookie season after playing in Europe this entire time, doing well in the international stage, and showing off that at the very least he can play NHL minutes? This is where we get into some of the other discussions that I wanted to bring up as well. This is what Big Head Hockey said on Twitter the other day. It's a list of every single 18-year-old, 6'3 plus, 238 plus pound player to play 10 plus NHL games in the league since the lockout. There's only 2, Slafkovsky and Hedman. There really isn't a modern comparable for this guy. And Cam Robinson goes out there and says, I love how specific this is, because I mean, look, how many 18-year-old guys who are 6'3 plus, 238 plus, playing NHL games over 10 since the lockout are there? There's literally only 2. It's a very unique profile. And the point that this tweet is so tongue-in-cheekily trying to make is that Juraj Slafkovsky is such a unique player that you can't really try to bring up any numbers to compare him to anybody else. Sure, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, these guys were first overall picks and they were amazing in the NHL right away. But all the other guys who were taken later took a lot more time to develop and become fantastic. Nico Hischier, he's a really good player, but he wasn't that in 2017-18. Rasmus Dahlin, he's a number 1 defender, but he wasn't that back in 2018-19. It's especially the case when you talk about the guys taken after. Jack Hughes, Alexis Lafreniere, Owen Power, none of these guys were good at all in their first NHL years post being drafted. Owen Power didn't even play in the NHL the upcoming year. And so for Juraj Slafkovsky, this is another one of these guys in that same pattern. He's going to take a while to develop. He's going to really need some more time to establish his awareness of the game. We always talked this entire season about him needing to have his head up more, but when he gets more comfortable, when he gets more adapted to what the NHL game has to offer, then I have no reason to believe that Juraj Slafkovsky cannot be that power forward sniper that has a responsible two-way game and can play top 6 minutes, maybe even top line minutes with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield, make that Slafkovsky line that we were talking about earlier last year come to reality. For me personally, I'm not worried about Slafkovsky because it's still 2023. If he's still playing like this, where he's not really all too comfortable, where he has his head down, where he's not making the best plays, where sometimes he coughs the puck up and he loses control in the corners, if he's playing like this in 2026, okay, then I'm going to start getting a little bit worried. But I feel like for a lot of Canadiens fans who are using this David Reinbacher pick as an opportunity to exploit their worry for Slafkovsky, I don't know if that's really all too fair, especially this early on to his career. Furthermore, I mean, we could talk about Reinbacher too, but this isn't really a video about him, it's mostly about Slaf. There are some other comments regarding Reinbacher that seem to just group Slafkovsky in there. Oh, the Canadiens went with another lower ceiling pick. They took the guy in Reinbacher who has a lower ceiling than Michkov, who could become the next Ovechkin. What's up with that? And the reason I bring that up is because I honestly disagree with it. I feel like out of all the players taken in 2022, Juraj Slafkovsky, when it comes to just pure, raw, hard ceiling, I feel like he may have the highest one of the bunch. Not because Shane Wright isn't talented, and that he doesn't have a high ceiling as a 90-point two-way center with a really great shot and great playmaking, but it's because Juraj Slafkovsky, as we had brought up with the Big Head Hockey quote, he is such a unique player that I don't even really know what the ceiling is. How many 6'3", 240-pound left-wing guys at 18 years old are there in the NHL? There are not many at all. Ever. And the only other one was Victor Hedman. And so for Slafkovsky to really grow and become the best version of himself, if he is able to find his game in the NHL as he had done at the end of the TPS season last year, where he was playing in the playoffs, or at the Olympic Games, or at the World Championships, he was scoring goals and assists like crazy at all those tournaments, then really, what is the ceiling for this guy? Does he have a 70-point ceiling? 80, 90 points? Does he cap out at 50 points? Production is difficult to predict, but it's even more difficult to predict for a guy who had such a strange skill set heading into the draft last year that there isn't really any modern comparable player. It's really hard to label where Slafkovsky is going to go, and I feel like that uncertainty may be fueling into a lot of these Canadiens fans' ill wishes and ill comments towards this situation. For Shane Wright, it's easy. Okay, two-way center, really great playmaker, very good awareness of the game. He's smart, he controls the offensive zone very well in pockets of space, and he's got a great shot. That type of player has been seen before. We've seen players like Shane Wright in the past. But for Juraj, I mean, if you want to talk about power wingers who have really great shots, I mean, Rick Nash comes to mind, but is that really a player comparison that you feel comfortable with throwing out there? I don't really know. I feel like Slafkovsky has a few different elements that separate him from Rick Nash, but either way, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Based off of the Reinbacher pick and all of the discourse that I've seen, are you worried about Juraj Slafkovsky? Because with the way Canadiens fans are talking about Reinbacher online, it's really making it seem like it's not only Reinbacher that's a problem, but Slafkovsky first overall from last year as well. What are your thoughts on the Canadiens' top 5 picks over the years? From Galchenyuk to KK to Slafkovsky to Reinbacher, what are your opinions on how these guys have developed so far, and what are your thoughts on where Slafkovsky has got to go from here? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.